here driving, and I'm just meditating, and Spirit is speaking to me, and God's payroll. It never. I don't know if I've ever really allowed myself to really think like, if my life is purpose driven and I'm a vessel of the Most High, this dynamic that we have in the flesh to work for income, for finances, for home, even for luxuries, that is the same thing, a reward system in the spirit. So even if it appears like you're in a situation where you're losing out on resources, you're missing out on resources, or you're not gaining the resources that you desire, if you don't let this taint your character and you still live a life where you're sharing love, you're sharing and spreading your light, if you just maintain being purpose driven and living on account or on behalf of divine will, it doesn't matter what happens in the flesh, right? Something could go a particular way in the flesh that is not reflective of the spirit. And what I mean by that, I'll use myself as an example. Today, suspended from work, from one of my jobs. And the reason why I was suspended from my job is due to my punctuality, my tardiness. And if I'm being totally transparent, punctuality has always been something that's like not that much of a priority to me. And I don't want to just write it off like it's not a priority, because clearly it is a priority. But I just noticed, like, don't get me wrong, I'm not always late, but I've been late a lot. I've been tardy a lot. And I know, there's a place for punctuality, and yes, like, the right thing to do, especially if you're working for a company, is to be on time, okay, period, because that's just, to keep things in order and balance, right? Cool. However, not to make excuses or justify the lack of punctuality, but all these things occur for a reason. And that reason, even though the context may be structured for the direction of whatever you're supposed to get out of this, right? Even though it may seem like it has all the context for it to be something negative, or for people to be able to apply that to something negative, I don't think that is necessarily always negative. So yeah, like, and so while I'm sitting here thinking on all this, like, because I know that there's individuals who are happy, that this is happening, that unfortunate or undesirable events have been taking place in my life. And I do strongly believe, that there's individuals who have hopes that all these things happening is supposed to overwhelm me so much that I sabotage myself. I self-sabotage. So this may look like apparent evidence. To some, this may look like evidence that, all the, fucked up energy that they're sending my way is working, it's effective, right? because this happened, and because that happened, and because this happened, and because this person feels overwhelmed. So whatever, right? Cool and cool. Just like you have work to do in this physical realm, in the flesh, you have work that you do in the spirit realm simultaneously or separately. So yes, you can do work in the flesh that's of a spiritual nature or spiritual purpose, but there's also still work required in the spirit that's, it's related but still separate. Now, I don't want to sound like I'm speaking gibberish and shit, but just bear with me as I, just get through my thoughts. But let's say, okay, let's say that the wrong thing to do, right? When that happened today, let's say the wrong thing or the karmic thing to do would have been for me to be highly reactive, and to show that and show my ass or whatever the case, right? But ideally, instead, it's like, okay, I understand. I'm still going to speak my piece in regards to how I feel like that could have been done better, while still recognizing my hand in this and being accountable, for my part. And one of the first things you think about in a situation like that, more than likely, the average person, you're going to think about your finances. You're going to think about the money that you're missing out on, and, yada, yada, yada. And there's a possibility for you to spiral as a result, or to fall into a place of worry and anxiety as a result. And if you were to do that, or if you choose to do that, you're giving your power away to the very people that's hoping and praying on your downfall, or praying for you to self-sabotage, right? You're literally giving them what they want. But I went to Silly's, one of my favorite vegan restaurants here in Georgia, to go get me a wrap and everything. And I forgot that the event that they're having was today, or is this weekend. It's been Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So if that had not happened, like what happened, who knows if I would have went to Silly's and even found out about the event that they're doing today, right? So I went there to get my wrap, and I seen this lady, very ancient spirited lady. She's an ancestor. In the flesh, she's an ancestor. But she makes and sells jewelry, like very sacred jewelry. I've gotten jewelry from her before, back in 2021. 2022, something like that. And when I saw her, it's like I just felt something like a vibrational pull. Like I felt something. She acknowledged me, I acknowledged her immediately, like when I passed her. So I went on to get my wrap, and then I went back to her, because I felt the need to grab like some type of, like I needed a new spiritual trinket or something for myself, specifically from her, right? And y'all, like, just what spirit will allow to happen, certain conversations, whether you're a part of the conversation or not, will take place after a particular event that was supposed to upset you occurs, to give you confirmation and clarity that, God is okay with this. God is not upset with you about it happening. God is not, going to punish you, or God is not punishing you because this happened. If anything, God is using this. I I'm even hearing now, like, this sermon that always comes back up in my spirit, and the sermon was about, it's not as bad as it seems. Like, it's literally not as bad as it look. It's not as bad as it seems. And you thinking that something is as bad as it is actually the illusion itself. But it's really not as bad as it is, right? Even when you're in the face of battle, warfare, right? Some type of conflict or discordance in the spirit, right? Which you will have, because not everybody is bold enough and courageous enough to, have conflict with you in the flesh. It just is what it is. It's not about, intimidating nobody and allowing that to be an ego boost. It's not about any of that. It's just a fact. It is a fact. There are people who may feel slighted by you, whether you directly did something to them or the lack thereof, okay? Who will attack you in the spirit because they are not bold and brave and courageous enough to face you, to confront you in the flesh. So while you are facing these battles and, all of this stuff, regardless of what the outcome is, especially if you're overcoming these things, I don't care if you feel like you barely overcame it. Like, I don't care if it don't look like you're overcoming it, but you actually are. To you, falling into like a really low place emotionally, like where you're sad and you're just crying all day, and you're just feeling super fragile and stuff like that. To you may look at that like, damn, like I'm really failing, or like, I'm doing something wrong, or they're winning or whatever, like I'm being overcome. And it's like, even though it may appear that way, you're actually still winning, like, the war. Because defeat, I feel like utter defeat would be you just completely casting away your divine nature. Everything that connects you with God from your spirit, or like just your divine nature, being kind nature, kind-hearted, when you allow that to just dwindle, or you cast that away, as well as like your faith, for example, that's when you're in, you're on grounds of defeat, right? But all this other stuff, outside of that, okay, that pushes you to the point of just having that little small mustard seed. God is not viewing that like, oh, you're failing, you're not doing enough, you're not, or you're not as sacred, you're not as gifted as you thought you were, like, and all this bullshit that your enemies want you to succumb to. God doesn't look at it like that, right? Some people may feel like when Jesus left, when he left and went into isolation, some of those people that was praying on his, downfall and wishing him ill and speaking all these evil, words toward him and plotting against him with others, they could have looked at that, him leaving, as a sign of defeat, right? So just because something appears to your enemies like instant gratification for them, or like some type of win for them, don't necessarily mean that it is. More than likely it's not. So a person that I really believe has become, or has turned from like associate to possible enemy in the spirit, they were present when this had happened today. And I don't know, it's like just the energy was weird. In my spirit, I felt like there were energies who wanted me to crash out because of that. But anyway, 1444. I've been seeing 444 a lot. And 222. But God has his own payroll. When I made my purchases, my spiritual purchases today, I asked God, was that an irresponsible decision? Am I going to regret this purchase? Those little thoughts try to creep in to make you doubt God, right? To make you question your covenant with God and the abundance and the prosperity assigned to you by means of you walking in your purpose, okay? You have these little thoughts that creep in that try to make you basically doubt God about your safety and your security. Even if some of that, like, even if you may possibly be susceptible to it because of your past trauma, right? Or times when you did have to go without. It's like we got to be careful with that, because there's a possibility we can still be controlled by an evil spirit that's going to toy with that fragility within us about finances and stability, right? So I noticed that's also been something I've been going back and forth with. Like, now that, I'm on this career path, like, I've been going back and forth with, damn, like, is this just temporary? Am I going to be back, where I just came out of, where I had to come out a couple of times, like, or going back and forth from breaking out of poverty mindset, just trying to find the balance between resourcefulness, being responsible with your finances, not overdoing it, still saving and budgeting, but still allowing yourself to enjoy what you work for. Like, finding the balance between that and not being hard on myself when I do spend, right? But you have to be really mindful nowadays. I'm not sure what the current transits are. But it's still Gemini season. And with that being said, we have to be mindful of us seeking counsel, or, opening our world to someone, like, about something that we've been, meditating and reflecting on about ourselves. Because if you're not careful, and that's why I love the stories in the Bible, because it's like the stories in the Bible always come to life, like, eventually throughout your life's experience. And so Job, when he was at a very low point, and these people that he called his friends, whether they had, intent to mislead him on purpose or not, maybe they were just speaking from where they was at, speaking from their own understanding of their heart. So he's still in that vulnerability of receiving that counsel from that person, that advice. He's still, like, his spirit man, or God, was still stronger. God was stronger than the emotions he was currently dealing with. God was stronger than the ideals and the illusions that was before him. God's spirit, Job's divine nature, overpowered the evil that was literally just trying to creep in, because they felt like he was in a place where they possibly could, in a way, possess him, shift him away from God into a mentality that's orchestrated by evil, opposed to having a divine mind, a sound mind, right? There was so much noise going on. Him losing, relatives to death, him getting sick, him losing, losing his prosperity. There was a lot of noise going on. Even if it was quiet, that was a lot of noise for him. And so with all that noise of these trials and these challenges and these obstacles happening, it's like his voice, started to kind of get lost in that chaos, in that noise. And so, rightfully so, like, you should be able to go to a friend for counsel. He did that. But he wasn't so far gone enough that he just completely wrote off his own, intuition and discernment. Y'all, we literally gonna have to hold on to God with everything that we got. Everything. Because that's what Job did. He literally held on to God with everything, every little thing that he had. And everything was stripped away from him. Everything was taken away from him. So I feel like it don't matter what happened when you're chosen. It don't matter what happened in your life, bro, what the outcomes are. It's like every outcome creates an opportunity for God to remind you that God is with you. To not get lost in the sauce of this physical realm and physical reality and all these people, billions and billions of people around us. Billions of people, billions of voices, billions of opinions all around us. All of these eyes on you. All of these mouths speaking on you. All of these thoughts thinking of you. God's thoughts, what God speaks on you, what God sees in you, literally overrides anybody's perception, anybody's ill wishing, anybody's ill hopes of you. Literally, like, it's gonna be there. The weapons are formed, right? But when we're talking about prosperity, when we're talking about prosperous, when we're talking about something actually prospering, that's like somebody building a rocket and hoping that when they launch it, it actually, makes it into space. That's literally how it is when people gather up all this energy work, voodoo and hexing and crossing and all this shit. When people gather all that stuff and launch that upon you, bro, that's they're hoping that it's going to carry all the way out. It's going to make it to space. Like they're going to, this is going to be the weapon that prospers, right? But they never prosper. They never prosper. There's heavy emphasis on the crown chakra. The third eye. Just purple, 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 purple. Purple has been a big theme today. And you have people who made decisions towards you from a place of delusion, who are being attacked, who are suffering, who are being reproached as a result. And so in that confusion, though, it's like someone wants to believe that they're the chosen one, they're the gifted one, and you try to do something to them. Now, even though that sounds crazy, it's like that heavy focus, though. That heavy focus on you. Wow, is that really real? Is that really real? There's a phenomenon of focusing on something so much that you may start to hallucinate that image, that object. let's say you're focusing in on a dot and then it starts looking like that dot is moving when it's not actually moving. I feel like there's something like that in regards to somebody or some people who's been attacking the chosen ones. Go to God about everything, bro. You know, I'm sitting here thinking, growing up, how I just wanted my mom or someone to be able to talk to me, like give me counsel, like give me words, like give me understanding to the things I was dealing with. But instead, my mom told me to pray. Go pray about it. And it used to piss me off. It felt like a cop-out. It felt like she was escaping parenting by not helping me sort through my emotions, especially when I was dealing with something traumatic, like being raped by a family member or some shit. Like different stuff like that, you know, which I wasn't raped by a family member. I was molested. I was raped by a stranger. But my sexual assault started with family. But anyway, the point is, I'm thinking about it now, and I'm realizing that with my mom being a Scorpio, even if she wasn't intentional on literally being spot on like that, bro, y'all, when you grow and just live through life and experience, you know, people from different walks of life, you're going to realize that it's really like that. You dealing with some shit, don't lock me out. Don't lock me out. Don't lock me out. Do you need me to get batteries? You need me to get batteries for the door?
No, I'm finna take that off.
Okay. So it's gonna be like the key that I got now?
Yeah.
Okay. But I'm realizing now while, you know, I'm talking, that there's a lot of truth to that. Because I'm finding, and I'm not saying like this is always the case, but man, you know, we're not perfect. We're not perfect. And God is not a man that he shall lie. There are some times when we lie, and it's not intentional. There's a such thing as people lying unintentionally. Of course, I'm just saying. But God is not a man that he shall lie. I think life takes us through these quarrels so we can come back to things that's already been written in our hearts, that's already been brought to our attention when we were at a different stage or version of ourselves, to come back, you know, through certain experiences where we really, really gather a deeper understanding and now wisdom to, you know, whatever that is. So yes, there are some benefits that you can get from talking to a friend or associate, you know, about shit that you're dealing with. But I'm telling you, you're going to have to like really, really get strong and being comfortable being your authentic self, even if you're going to do stuff like that. Because I don't care, like, there's always an energy lurking around that's hoping to sift you as weak, that's hoping, you know, to abuse your confidence. Yes, a lot of times we say vulnerability and people weaponizing your vulnerability and your information. But some people will try to abuse your confidence. People will abuse your confidence. They will assault and target your confidence, all while trying to convince you that you're insecure. Imagine this. You're confident enough to cry in front of somebody. You're confident enough to talk about, yo, like, life just really sucks right now, and this is why, this happened and this happened and I'm dealing with this, and you don't feel no shame about it. Oh, cherry. Is that cherry? Okay. I was say, what the fuck? But yeah, and don't get me wrong, like, we still should be able to be in position to give one another sound counsel when necessary. And there will be times when we have that available to us. But the most sound is going to be depends on that person's connection, with the Most High, and whether they've retained their divine nature. That's, where it's actually beneficial, when it's coming from people like that. Because even in the counsel that they are giving you at that time, like, some of it may be on the nail, some of it not so much, but the nature, the energy, the vibration of that conversation, and the intention behind it, meaning the intention behind this person's counsel is that, they genuinely want things to be better for you. They genuinely want to help come to a solution with you, right? Or help you come to a resolution. That's their intentions, right? With that energy being present, even if they're not exactly spot on, because that energy is still channeled, right? And it's two people, and God is there too. You're going to come to the clarity that you need, even if it's not directly out of what that person say. But because it's like, think about prayer circles, or meditating, like, with a group of people, right? All with the same mind, and all, with the desire to just have God be present and have God assist. Same concept, right? Sometimes God will manage to speak through the person accurately. Sometimes, because the energy is present, it'll come through you. And you may feel guided to share that with that person, or it may just be for you and you alone. But yeah, I know I kind of veered off, but that's just something to think about. When we go through these changes in life, especially like with finances and stability and security and all of these things, I think to really stay on the course, we have to consider that, God has a payroll too. Not just these fucking people, not just humans, but God has a payroll too. And it's like, are you, doing your work or doing your due diligence? Are you showing up for God? Are you showing up? Right? Because on time for God may be in the middle of the night. On time for God may be, 8 o'clock. On time for God could be, any time of the day. And what's so crazy about that, the lady that I had got my spiritual trinkets from today, she said that she's never really cared about time. She's never really applied time to her reality. I wish I had a picture of this lady. I'm gonna shout her out though, like House of Summer on Instagram. But the fact that she made that statement, and I was suspended from work due to time. I just felt like, God's way of doing things, the way God perceives things, we might really, really want to take the extra step to tap in and really see, how does God perceive these things? Let's say your employer is looking at you sideways because you've been late, and you've been late consecutively there. But to God, What if God had you late because he didn't want you, in the energetic field of that particular person? That if you would have been on time. Okay, like my job, for example, it's like a client servitude type of job. So what if God didn't want me servicing that person, right? You just never know. What if it was better off for that person to be with someone else? You just never know, right? You never know, but God always knows. And I want to take that back. We don't never know. Like, of course we know some things, but there's a lot we don't know, but God knows. Ooh. I'm going to just go ahead and freehand with this, because I'm just getting different messages. Like, come lay down your burden. The burdens that you carry. The 10 of Wands. Anything that has the potential, or anything that manifests as burdensome to you, we're not supposed to hold on to that shit. We're supposed to lay them down. We're supposed to lay them down to God. Like, we're talking about an energy that literally can put life back into somebody. If somebody died, can bring this person back to life. They're showing me the story of Solomon, and I've mentioned this story a few times, but they're showing me the story of Solomon with the two mothers. One mother, let's just say maybe she was neglectful with her child, so her child was deceased when she woke up. So before the other mother woke up to realize anything, she swapped her child with the other mother's child, so she could have the live child, right? And the mother knew that it wasn't her baby. Like, she knew that it wasn't her child. Now, think about how deeply psychotic or delusional a person has to be to think that something like that type of switcheroo would actually work, or that they can actually get away with it. Y'all, I'm saying all this for a reason, because it's all applicable with the shit that we dealing with nowadays. There are people who are delusional, so delusional that they think that they will actually get away with shit. And the way that Solomon played the fuck out of that woman is the way that God be playing these people that think that they getting one over on us. Solomon said, he asked them, he gave them the opportunity, flat out, whose child is this? And when the lady insisted on lying, and the other lady, she spoke her truth, but because the other lady was lying, there was a layer of confusion there. So to clear up and just cut through that veil, Solomon told his guard, well, just bring me my sword, and we just gonna cut the baby in half, so both of y'all can go home with a half of the baby, since we don't know who the real mama is. I'm not about to play these games with y'all. Even though he was just, it was just strategy, right? It was just strategy. So that, he could get the truth. And it worked, right? Because we're talking about a wise guy doing this. Because initially, if you take him literal, you're like, oh my God, like, he's a monster. Why would you do something like that? Oh my God. But of course, he wasn't going to do that. It's strategy to get the truth. So God strategizes things, right, in order to get justice in the situation. To get you justice in the situation. Because the lady, the real mother, when he said, well, I'm just going to cut the baby in half since we don't know who the actual mom is, she said, no, please don't do that. And she was like, she could have him. She was willing to give up her child just so that he would have his life, so that he wouldn't be sacrificed. The lady who was lying, she was all for it. Like, yeah, well, oh well, I guess, I guess you're gonna lose your baby too. You're gonna lose your baby too. And y'all, there's people who are really like that. Like, if I lost this, I want you to lose this too. If I don't have this, I don't want you to have yours. Even though, you're taking better care of yours and you're more nurturing, or you've nurtured yours, so yours have life. But I neglected mine, and so there's death, upon me. It's really like that. It's really like that. So in her submission and willing to just sacrifice even ownership or just having custody of her child just so that he wouldn't be killed, this revealed true character. It revealed true character of both parties. And so Solomon was able to deal righteously that judgment and return the child back to his rightful mother. So sometimes that's what happens with us, or that's what's happening, in our lives, when it's fucked up that she even had to go to a judge to prove that that was her child. Now we're talking about a baby like that has your features and will respond to you differently than it would another person. Like, there's so many things like to prove that this woman was telling the truth. But because there was one naysayer, because there was an evil spirited energy that was willing to be deceptive and add a layer of confusion or veil over the situation, unfortunately she had to undergo processes just to be shown that she was telling the truth the whole time. Like, that's not fair. She didn't deserve to have to do that shit. She just woke the fuck up and her baby was gone. Her baby that looked like her, smell her, remember her baby was gone. And it's not enough to say, that's my child. She gave me her dead child and she has my child. That's my baby. Look at him. Look at me. It wasn't enough. She had to go to court to get her child back because of a conniving ass, selfish ass woman who was given the same gift, was given the same blessing, but she ain't take care of hers, so she want to take somebody else's. What the fuck? And then clearly they was close enough for you to be in proximity to that woman to swap your baby out with hers. Y'all had to be some type of close. Y'all, is it not like that in our lives dealing with people? Is it not like that? Has it not been like that? So when stuff appear to go wrong or go in a way that's not desirable in the flesh, don't worry. Lay down that burden, because more than likely it's going the way it's supposed to go in the spirit. And it just hasn't quite manifested as quickly in the flesh, but it is. It's inevitable. It's inevitable. Because one thing about the truth and tarot is associated with what? Swords. A fucking sword. And one thing about lies and deception, what is that associated with? Veils, illusions, a cape, a gown, some shit that's covering or cloaking something else. Meaning, no matter what illusion, what veil, what shadows, what storms people cast over you, your authenticity, your truth, or simply the spirit of God is going to always be able to cut through it. There's no lie, no illusion, no mask, no veil, no cloud that is impenetrable. None. There are none. There are none. There are none. There are none. There aren't any. So even when you get caught up or, swept in those clouds and shit, you got rained on by that cloud, your clothes all wet and shit, you frustrated, you annoyed, it ruined your outfit, whatever. Even in all that, you simply owning, that moment, owning, your truth. You're going to have you're going to always have your prodigal son moments. You're going to always cut through whatever is casted over you to blind you of who you are and who you are to God. You're going to always cut through it. It's going to attack your flesh first. It's going to attack the things that are further away from the soul first. Your mind, your emotions, your flesh, before it reaches your soul, your spirit man. So that's why everything starts to deteriorate, or everything starts to spiral mentally, emotionally, even physically. You may not be doing shit that you used to do. You may be slacking on your eating habits, and you may picked up some habits. You started back drinking, or you drinking a little too much. You smoking a little too much. You fucking a little too much. Whatever the cat, whatever. Even if you're not fucking, but let's say you doing something to relieve yourself a little too. Whatever escape that you find yourself in, whatever escape that you find yourself in, you're going to always come out of it. There's going to always be a way of escape from that. And for a lot of us, who are on our divine paths, who are assigned to assist God, our way of escape is going to be through the soul. Our way of escape is going to always be through our spirit man. It's going to always be through spirit. Because that's the last thing that get touched for real. It's the reason why God created us with layers. Right? With all these different energetic bodies. It's the reason why he structured us that way, created us that way, because it's a lot that these dark forces will have to penetrate through to get to us. So, Adam and Eve had a son named Seth. I'm going to read y'all this brief little section. As for Seth, do I want to read that part? Yep. As for Seth, when he was 7 years old, he knew good and evil, and was consistent in fasting and praying, and spent all his nights in entreating God for mercy and forgiveness. He also fasted when bringing up his offering every day, more than his father did, for he was of a fair countenance, like unto an angel of God. He also had a good heart, preserved the finest qualities of his soul, and for this reason he brought up his offering every day. And God was pleased with his offering, but he was also pleased with his purity. And he continued thus in doing the will of God and of his father and mother until he was 7 years old. After that, as he was coming down from the altar, now this is the part I want you guys to hear. As he was coming down from the altar, having ended his offering, Satan appeared unto him in the form of a beautiful angel. In the form of a beautiful angel. In the form of a beautiful angel. And y'all know they say Satan, Lucifer, was one of the most attractive, physically appealing angels of all the angels. That's what, we've heard that, right? Satan appeared unto him in the form of a beautiful angel, brilliant with light, with a staff of light in his hand, himself girt about with a girdle of light. He greeted Seth with a beautiful smile and began to beguile him with fair words, saying to him, O Seth, why abidest thou in this mountain? For it is rough, full of stones and of sand, and of trees with no good fruit on them. A wilderness without habitations and without towns, no good place to dwell in, but all is heat, weariness, and trouble. He said further, but we dwell in beautiful places in another world than this earth. Our world is one of light, and our condition is of the best. Our women are handsomer than any others, and I wish thee, O Seth, to wed one of them, because I see that thou art fair to look upon, and in this land there is not one woman good enough for thee. Besides, all those who live in this world are only 5 souls. But in our world there are very many men and many maidens, all more beautiful one than another. I wish therefore to remove thee hence, that thou mayest see my relations and be wedded to whichever thou likest. Thou shalt then abide by me and be at peace. Thou shalt be filled with splendor and light as we are. Thou shalt remain in our world and rest from this world and the misery of it. Thou shalt never again feel faint and weary. Thou shalt never bring up an offering nor sue for mercy, for thou shalt commit no more sin, nor be swayed by passions. If thou wilt hearken to what I say, thou shalt wed of one of my daughters, for with us it is no sin so to do. Neither is it reckoned animal lust. For in our world we have no God, but we are all gods. We all are of the light, heavenly, powerful, strong, and glorious. Self-conscience helps him. He returns to Adam and Eve. When Seth heard these words, he was amazed and inclined his heart to Satan's treacherous speech and said to him, Saidest thou there is another world created than this, and other creatures more beautiful than the creatures that are in this world? And Satan said, Yes, behold, thou hast heard me, but I will yet praise them in their ways in thy hearing. But Seth said to him, Thy speech has amazed me, and thy beautiful description of it all. Yet I cannot go with thee today, not until I have gone to my father Adam and to my mother Eve, and told them all thou hast said to me. Then if they give me leave to go with thee, I will come. Again Seth said, I am afraid of doing anything without my father's and mother's leave, lest I perish like my brother Cain, and like my father Adam, who transgressed the commandment of God. But behold, thou knowest this place. Come and meet here tomorrow. When Satan heard this, he said to Seth, If thou tellest thy father Adam what I have told thee, he will not let thee come with me. But hearken to me. Do not tell thy father and mother what I have said to thee. But come with me today to our world, where thou shalt see beautiful things and enjoy thyself there, and revel this day among my children, beholding them and taking thy fill of mirth, and rejoice evermore. Then I shall bring thee back to this place tomorrow. But if thou wouldest rather abide with me, so be it. Then Seth answered, The spirit of my father and my mother hangs on me, and if I hide from them one day, they will die, and God will hold me guilty of sinning against them. And except that they know I am come to this place to bring up to it my offering, they will not be separated from me 1 hour. Neither should I go to any other place unless they let me. But they treat me most kindly, because I come back to them quickly. Then Satan said to him, What will happen to thee if thou hide thyself from them one night, and return to them at the break of day? But Seth, when he saw how he kept on talking, and that he would not leave him, ran and went up to the altar and spread his hands unto God and sought deliverance from him. Then God sent his word and cursed Satan, who fled from him. But as for Seth, he had gone up to the altar, saying thus in his heart, the altar is the place of offering, and God is there. A divine fire shall consume it. So shall Satan be unable to hurt me, and shall not take me away thence. Alright, so he went back to his parents, and he then began to tell them what had befallen him from Satan under the form of an angel. But when Adam heard his account, he kissed his face and warned him against that angel, telling him it was Satan who thus appeared to him. So I said all that to say, mother and father, the most high for us. I said all that to say, y'all, like, there are very, very strong illusions. Seth was only 7 years old. Okay. He has very intentional and conscious parents who are aware of God. Okay. And have instilled those things in him, separate from what God instilled in him, because that's our original parent, right? But he had parents to nurture and nourish what God has instilled in him. So from a young age, this chosen child, was really, really tapped in, with his spirit man. So even with him being so pure, this is not somebody who's defiled themselves sexually or nothing like that. With him being so pure, he was still tempted with a strong illusion. That strong illusion appearing to him as a beautiful angel. And something else that stood out to me too in that description was how he had a staff of light. He was girded about with light, but it didn't necessarily speak of the light coming from him. Like, the light wasn't necessarily coming from, like, inside. These are things that he put on his person, that he put on his flesh, right? That he dressed himself with to appear like he was trustworthy when he actually wasn't. And these are the kind of people that we're dealing with. We're dealing with people who dress themselves, who speak, who carry themselves in a manner to appear like they're really divine when they're actually not. And you're going to have people that try to trick you into their territory, even if it's a mental or emotional territory. But in reading that just now, when he said that he normally returns to his parents quickly, right? We're supposed to return to God quickly as possible. No matter what we face, return to God quickly. It makes a hell of a difference. And an example I have to attest to that. So I picked up on some type of chaos energy or magic being sent my way, right? And even though, because it was so much and because of the people that it was being used through, to a degree, I kind of gave in to it emotionally. But, towards the end of me, like, kind of, like, I guess better understanding, like, what was actually going on. I had an invitation to get into an argument with somebody, right? And I knew that what they were saying to me had nothing to do with me. They were frustrated with somebody whom they've conceived a child with. They were frustrated elsewhere, but are generally passive until they have, like, their explosive moments with that person. And so that energy was already, like, present. They had just argued with the person the previous night. So they thought they was going to argue with me. And I've already gone back and forth with this person, like, at least 2 different occasions. But this particular time, I refused. Like, I just refused. And I told, Satan, I told the energy, you're not welcome. I don't accept the invitation. I'm not interested. I reject it. Return to sender. But you can't reside here. And I just blocked the person. Like, temporarily, I just blocked them. I only unblock them when I need to, like, speak to them for real. But otherwise, I block them. I keep them blocked. But I didn't give into, arguing back with them. And it settled quickly. So when Seth says that he normally returns back to his parents quickly, right? We're supposed to be that way with God. Like, we're not supposed to, leave too much space to give life to those negative thoughts where we start seething in that shit. Like, no, you're supposed to return to God quickly. Like, okay, boom, somebody trying to have discord with me. I'm not about to feed this shit nothing. I'm just gonna return back to God quickly, right? Easier said than done. It's not that we don't know this information, but it's just a matter of having the strength to apply it when it's the most difficult time to do it. You in love with somebody and they disrespect the fuck out of you or embarrass you, bro, you're not gonna have as much patience, or like, it's gonna be a challenge to control those impulses, because you feel slighted or misunderstood, or you're hurt by the fact that that energy was even able to be present, because of how you move intentionally. But still, those are the moments when it's the most difficult to apply alchemy or apply wisdom to control yourself, to find that way of escape, out of that cloud. But yeah. People have tapped into finding that door, right? Being on God's payroll, knowing that you're on God's payroll and not letting anything outside of you shift that, right? That's the place where we need to be and stay and remain. But I'm gonna end this video here, you guys. I'm gonna end this video here. And I vow to myself, to my legacy, to God, to really do better with consciously remembering that, thinking of that, considering that. All right, you guys, see you later. Bye.